Bibliophile series episode 23. Let's get to the article today. Chabahar, a reset of India-Iran ties, written by Richa Mishra. It was present in Hindu Business Line. Okay, in this article, in the last couple of years, New Delhi has maintained its own stand on the geopolitical developments when it came to India's fossil fuel sourcing and making its presence felt in infrastructure projects. So has India's foreign policy undergone a change? Okay. So this sentence is highlighting is in the recent past, in the last few years, New Delhi has maintained its own stand on geopolitical developments. Basically, it has not bowed down to pressure from international bodies or other countries. They have been doing their own thing when it comes to India's fossil fuel sourcing and making its presence felt in infrastructure projects. If we look at the recent turn of events, importing oil from Russia, and more recently India and Tehran signing a long-term bilateral contract on Chabahar port operations, and New Delhi's handling of US warning, what does this all convey? So three different things have been mentioned. Importing oil from US, the exclusive bilateral contract with Iran, and New Delhi's handling of US warning. What does all these three things point towards is what this article will go into. Let us refresh our memory. Not so long ago, Iran was the third largest supplier of crude oil for India till 2018-19. In June 2019, the then US President Donald Trump placed fresh sanctions on Iran due to its nuclear program, and India was under pressure to bring down its imports to zero with Tehran. So see, this is another hinting of what was mentioned earlier. In 2019, June 2019, after new sanctions were placed on Iran by US, India was under pressure, geopolitical pressure from US to bring down its exports or bring down its imports from Tehran to zero. What has changed now? Chabahar is different. Chabahar is a bilateral project between India and Iran. It serves India's strategic interest. We have been clamoring for so long for connectivity with Afghanistan and Central Asia. We have been waiting. We have been agitating this point that Pakistan has prevented the natural, said Talmiz Ahmed, the former Indian ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Oman and UAE. Okay, so they are referencing an Indian ambassador who has served in three countries, at least three countries as written here. And the point that he's highlighting is we wanted a connection to Afghanistan and Central Asia, and Pakistan has prevented that, but Chabahar gives us an outlet there. Okay. He was the additional secretary for international cooperation in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas in 2004 to 2006. So he has also served in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, the fossil fuel ministry. So his insight has more credibility now. The long-term bilateral contract on Chabahar port operation was signed between Indian Ports Global Limited of India and Port and Maritime Organization (PMO) of Iran, enabling operation of Shahid Beheshti in Chabahar port development project for a period of 10 years. Okay. What is Shahid Beheshti? As of now, I don't know, but that agreement enabled operation of Shahid Beheshti in the Chabahar port development project for a period of 10 years. Okay. Earlier, a memorandum of understanding for development of Chabahar port by India was signed in May 2015. Thereafter, the contract was executed on May 23, 2016 at Tehran during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Iran. The agreement aims to enhance regional connectivity and facilitate trade, particularly between India, Iran and Afghanistan. So the earlier concern we mentioned that Pakistan has prevented the natural connection between Afghanistan and Central Asia. That concern is being overcome by the agreement in place with Iran. The India Ports Global Chabahar Free Zone, a subsidiary of IPGL, facilitated the first consignment of exports from Afghanistan to India in 2019. So Afghanistan has sent over goods to India in 2019 for the first consignment came from Afghanistan to India in 2019. According to Kabir Taneja, fellow in Strategic Studies program at the Observer Research Foundation, Chabahar is probably the only thing working in India-Iran relationship right now. Okay, So he's also kind of hinting at the fact, apart from this Chabahar port, the other aspects of the relationship are not really working for India and Iran right now. This is the only thing that is good. This is the only thing that is functioning. India will work at explaining that the Chabahar port is in the region's interest. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar was reported to have said when responding to a query on the US government's remarks about the potential risk of sanctions to companies working on the Indian Iran joint venture. So, see, US placed sanctions on Iran due to the development of the nuclear program. Now, US has sent out feelers into the world that if you engage with Iran there, it would not be to your benefit, it would be to the detriment of the population. But India is planning to use the argument that it is to the benefit of the region, it is to the benefit of the region if we operate this Chabahar port extension, whatever we've got. Okay. India has not only lost a key oil supplier in Iran, the fate of ONGC Videsh Iran project, Farsi blocks, is still unknown. Farsi is an offshore block in Persian Gulf, Iran. Okay, it is an offshore block in Persian Gulf, Iran. So this is perhaps one of those things that is not working in the India-Iran relationship. Chabahar is working, but the other aspects not working. This is perhaps one of those things that is not working. The ONGC Videsh-led Indian consortium carried out exploration activities in Farsi block under exploration service contract signed on December 25, 2002. OVL, okay, ONGC Videsh-led Indian consortium, I'm guessing, has written to the National Iranian Oil Company regarding the project and is awaiting response from the operator. Okay, this is the aspect of what has changed now. What has changed now? So, what has changed now is basically after the sanctions, the trade interaction between India and Iran went down. But with Chabahar being operational, Afghanistan has sent over first exports in 2019, first consignment of exports, and everything else is in limbo apart from Chabahar port operation in the India-Iran relationship. And there was some Farsi block in which exploration activity has happened from ONGC, but we are still awaiting a response from the operator, the exploration service contract that they had. They're still awaiting a response from the operator, National Iranian Oil Company. Okay. The second point that was highlighted in the article is energy security. How should one read this development, and what does it mean for India's energy security? You know, India's approach towards Iran now is actually more important, or at least to maintain it at a certain level, because of Afghanistan first and foremost, and Central Asia. Central Asia less so. Central Asia less so, because we really don't have the capacities to put in a lot of money into Central Asia, where, as far as infrastructure goes, keeping the foot on the door is extremely critical. Keeping the foot in the door is extremely critical for future endeavors, said Taneja. Taneja was a fellow in some observer institution, mentioned, no? Observer Research Foundation. Okay. Our need for energy expanded, and simultaneously we were not able to expand the resources. So we are import dependent. And this again references the earlier idea. Because of sanctions on Iran, it was the third largest oil supplier to India. Because of sanctions, we had to bring it down. So need for energy expanded, we were not able to expand resources, so we are import dependent. We were import dependent to the extent of about 80% 25 years ago. 4/5 of our energy requirement was being imported, and we are import dependent to the same extent 25 years later. Nothing really has changed. Our resources haven't really kept pace with our demand. We are still about 80% dependent on external sources for our fuel needs. Now, our needs have increased exponentially, said Ahmed. Now, Ahmed was the Talmiz Ahmed, the former ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Oman, and UAE, who had also served in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So, his perspective is our needs have grown up, our needs have become larger, our fuel needs have become larger, but our sources by which we can get those fuel that we need, that hasn't really gone up. We are going to be hydrocarbon and fossil fuel dependent at least for the next 20 years, if not 30 years. Let's be very clear about that. He said, adding that, but green transition has to happen simultaneously. We should not lose out on both sides, that you neither get the hydrocarbons you need, nor do you get the green transition. The transition from fossil fuel to green energy is being called green transition, and here it was called green transition. I don't know if it is a mistake that green has been renamed as grain, or maybe the same transition has been given two names, but okay. India has been expanding its fossil fuel sourcing basket, but it also sees its energy demand soaring with domestic production falling short of the requirement. Therefore, maintaining good ties with fossil fuel producing countries is crucial. We need more, we don't have as much, so we need to maintain good relations with countries that have surplus that we can import. Good relations will not only help in supply availability, but also at times getting a good price. Okay, also potentially helps in negotiations. As in the case with Iran, there have been instances where China has taken advantage of the situation by not only locking the fuel supply, but getting infrastructure projects as well. India had tried pitching for integrated projects. Sudan is one such example, but couldn't succeed much with other countries. Okay. So in the past, India has tried its hand at getting into the infrastructure game, pitching integrated projects. When they say integrated projects, now integrated projects technically could mean two things. Either it is a joint effort from two countries, Sudan and India, both of them are building, or it could be a private public partnership where the government of India is involved and some local private company from Sudan is involved. Either way, integrated project, there is a stakeholder, there is somebody from Sudan, there is somebody from the local place who has skin in the game. It is not just India that is risking all its capital and India that is risking all its resources. It is also some local player who has skin in the game that enhances the likelihood of success. That is what this line is talking of. And the fact that India has not been successful in getting those infrastructure projects that it has wished for. Okay. Should India opt for integrated project approach? There is a very deep gap between the dreams and visions of officials and journalists and what actually happened on the ground. So, what officials and journalists are expecting it to be, what they are envisioning, and what actually happened on the ground, there is a wide gap. Ahmed said, adding that it is very difficult to get all the stakeholders, different ministries, and sometimes different departments of the same ministry on the same page. Because there are so many people on the table, getting everyone aligned to a common vision, common plan, common course of action is very difficult. According to Taneja, as far as what India should do when it comes to integrated approaches, there are limitations, and limitations stem from various factors including sanctions. Okay. So India's response to integrated projects, there are limitations. One of the limitations mentioned is multiple people at the table and everyone having their different agenda. And it does not get helped by the fact that there are sanctions imposed upon the party that we are working with. India may seem like a late mover in the current scheme of things in the geopolitical space, but it has made its voice heard. So while India may not be an early mover, while India may have come late to the party or the response might be delayed, it is still a significant voice because it has made its voice heard. It is still something or a country that people have to pay attention to. Okay. But what it now also has to keep in mind is the relevance of energy security. They also have to keep in mind the relevance of its energy security. By energy security, what they are referencing is the earlier thing, wherein India needs a lot more and is getting a lot India needs a lot more energy. Fuel sources are not keeping pace with the kind of demand that we have, and therefore we need to ensure our relationship with countries that have a surplus of fuel. We maintain good relationships with them. New Delhi will need to be consistent with its strategy and not succumb to external pressure. This is a very mild way of saying, let not our countries outside of India determine our foreign policy. Okay, so this article is mainly, see, this is a very, very good write-up of talking about the concern, but subtly hinting at it and not jumping at it directly because it may upset people. The primary concern here is because of sanctions placed by US, because of the attitude of US towards Iran, our relationship with Iran has soured a little. Yet we need to maintain good relationship with Iran because of our energy security concerns. Basically, we need more fuel, and we cannot entirely abandon our foreign relationships on account of some other country demanding it be so. Additionally, we have started our Chabahar port operations. That gives us access into Afghanistan and Central Asia. Afghanistan, a primary concern. The Central Asia, secondary concern, because we don't really have the resources to pump into Central Asia as of now. We also need to be mindful of. The fact that we are going to be projecting Chabahar as operation of Chabahar or working in Chabahar port is beneficial to the rest of the region. As in, it is not just Iran that is benefiting, it is also the other regions that are benefiting. So if we stop the operation there, it may end up not only adversely impacting Iran but other countries also on whom sanctions have not been placed. That is an argument that India is planning to use according to S. Jaishankar. Okay, fairly straightforward article, nothing too out of the ordinary. The article length is 937 words. The sentences were 39. According to Flesh Kincaid grade 11, this is for somebody around 12th grade or higher. That person can easily comprehend it. The reading score is 54.216, which lies in the range 50 to 59, so fairly difficult to read. Not a very out of this world article, but then within this article there was this beautiful aspect of lots of things were referenced without actually stating. Nobody in this article is shouting off the rooftops that US is the problem, US is the problem. But then beautiful hints with regards to US interfering in Indian geopolitical space has been given, and in the end, the author has also mentioned you need to maintain consistency in your relationships. You can't really do today we are friends with you, tomorrow we are not friends with you, not because of something that you did with us, but something because of something that the other countries are telling us to do. That is all for this article. Hopefully you understood stuff and you appreciated whatever concerns are happening. By these articles, I am trying to fulfill two purposes. First is, of course, reading articles, what references are given, how can you link different sections of the passage. Secondly, if you keep pace with this, a lot of important international events are also getting covered. Hopefully, that serves you well. That will be all for this week. See you in the next episode.